My miracle baby is turning 3 on Saturday, so I wanted to share a little bit about my story around how I brought him into this world, how I manifested this tiny little human, and celebrate that he's here. He's almost 3 years old, and it's such a blessing and a gift that I get to be his mom. And I want my intention to give you hope, and also to let you know that miracles do happen. And I can tell you that this little boy is a miracle. So I wanted to share my story around what kind of led up to my big belief in him being a miracle and how I manifested him. So in the end of 2019, my older son, he was, was he not even 2 yet? And we decided that we wanted to try for another baby because we just loved him so much. He's so wonderful. We just fell in love with this little boy. And so we wanted to try for another baby, my husband and I. And we spent all of 2020 trying for that little baby, and nothing came of it. And so it was the end of the year, I want to say October, November of 2020, where I started to do some fertility treatments. And I had met with my gynecologist, and her recommendation, she's like, I've done everything I can, so you need to start going to a fertility doctor. So I started going to a fertility doctor. They gave me all kinds of different medications. And in February of 2021, I got around estrogen and progesterone, because they're like, well, we've tried all these other things. Now we have to try this to see if we can get you to make eggs or whatever they're trying to do. So in March of that's, a couple weeks later, I find a lump in my breast, and it was estrogen positive, progesterone positive, and I'm told I have breast cancer. So I'm trying to create this baby, and instead I am told that I have breast cancer, and now this is something that I have to deal with. Well, I still wanted to have a baby, and one of the things we decided to do before I started my chemo was do a round of IVF, because I knew that choosing to do chemo was going to cause damage to my body. And, I wanted to have the best chance to have another baby, because I just knew that I was meant to have another little person in my life. I love my older son so much, and I just knew that I needed to have another one. And so we chose to do a round of IVF. It was the last, probably week of April in 2021, first week of May, where we did all the medications, and then I went in and they retrieved 4 eggs, and they made embryos, and they called me and they said, okay, everything went well. We have 4 embryos. This was a Thursday. The next Monday I got a call from my doctor, and he told me that all of my embryos died. I didn't have anything to save. And I was devastated. That was harder for me to hear than you have breast cancer. I could handle having breast cancer because I could control that. That was happening to me. Not being able to have another baby, I felt like that was outside of my control. And I was so devastated. And they said, you can do another round. And I was like, I don't think I can go through that again. I can't go through that loss again. That's too much. So I started my chemo, and I ended chemo July of 2021. I had a mastectomy August of 2021. I had been on a injection called goserelin, and it basically shuts down your ovaries. So when you go through chemo, it can shut down your ovaries to protect them from being damaged through chemo treatments. And so I started that in May. I was on that until I think January of 2022. And so I decided I wanted to get off this, because I just, again, knew I wanted to have another baby, and I wanted to have that baby as soon as possible. And I went back to my fertility doctor May of 2022, a year after I lost all my embryos, and said, okay, what are my chances of having another baby? What do we need to do? And I went in and I did all my blood work, and the doctor called me back, and he told me that I had less than 5% chance of conceiving a baby on my own. And he told me that if I wanted to have another child, I would need to do embryo adoption and more medication, IVF stuff. And after going through breast cancer and going through that, I was like, I am no longer going to be putting hormones in my body. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. And so I decided in that moment, I can listen to this doctor and I can believe that I have less than a 5% chance of conceiving on my own, or I can believe in that less than 5% chance and I can manifest a baby. And so that's what I chose to do. So that was May of 2022. I made a decision that I was going to manifest this baby, and I had been learning about manifestation for years. And so this is what I decided to do. Every single night I would lay down in my bed and I would imagine that I was pregnant. I would imagine that I found out I was pregnant. I would imagine getting that positive pregnancy test and how it felt and how I would celebrate. I would imagine being pregnant and feeling my belly. I would imagine holding my baby in the hospital. I would imagine all of these things. And then I would feel that in my body. I would feel how it felt. And there were times where I did this, where I would be laying in my bed at night doing this and I would be sobbing because that love, right? That love you feel. I mean, I know that love because I had it with my older son. So I knew that love of loving a child. And I would, imagine it in my mind's eye and I would feel it in my body. And another thing that I would do was also imagine a bright white healing light coming down from the sky that was a healing energy, and I would imagine it would come down and it was healing my ovaries, or I was like, I don't know what's going on down there, I don't know what's wrong. So this beautiful bright white healing light would come down and it would heal my uterus, ovaries, whatever needed to be healed, and it would just heal my body. So I would see that as well, and I would feel the healing light and I would see the healing light. And so for months, night after night, this is what I would do. I would lay down, I would see this beautiful healing light, I would see myself with this baby, I would see myself pregnant, I would see myself with a positive pregnancy test. I saw this life that I wanted, and I would feel it, and I felt it so much in my body. And it was October of 2022, and my husband, we were trying. And he sat me down and he said, babe, I don't think it's gonna happen for us. And I looked at him and I said, yes, it is. I had zero doubt that I could do this. I had zero doubt. And I knew I was going to try to have another baby until the end of the year. That was what I was like, okay, I'm going to try until the end of 2022, because I'm in my 40s and, they told me I have less than, but I'm going to try. So that was October. My husband sat me down and said, I don't think it's going to happen for us. And I knew with conviction, yes, it is. And I had this moment where it's like, I really need to check in with my higher power and see what else can I do. And I remember I went and I was in the bathtub one night and I just was praying or just speaking to my higher power. Like, what do I need to do to bring this baby into my life? And I had this feeling of you need to do ovulation sticks. And I'm like, I've done all of the ovulation sticks. I've done all of the ovulation. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to trust this prompting. I'm going to trust this and I'm going to do it. And so I got another package of this, are you ovulating strips? And I took them and I found, okay, I'm ovulating, right? And so I'm just from that prompt and from that ovulation, that's when I got pregnant. Because I saw it in my mind's eye, I listened into my prompt, and then I remember waking up one morning super early at 5 a.m. and taking a pregnancy test and just oh gosh, I cannot get another negative, because I was just one after another. My ovulation stick saying you're not ovulating, and so many negative pregnancy tests that just were devastating. And I got a positive pregnancy test, and this was the second or third week in November of 2022. And see, I get emotional. I called my husband at work and he didn't answer, so he calls me back. I'm sobbing, right? I'm crying. He's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? It's 5 a.m. And I'm like, it happened. I'm pregnant. And it was just one of the best moments of my life. Not because I finally manifested this beautiful little baby that I wanted, but it gave me so much self-belief in the power that I have. I believed that little boy into existence before he actually existed. And now here we are 3 years later, and he's been such a blessing and such a gift. And he would not be here today if I did not choose to believe in him. If I had listened to the doctors, if I had given up because of cancer, I would not get to have the joy of this little person. And whatever you're going after, maybe it's a baby, maybe it's Shannon, I know that you want to be mayor. I know you can manifest that. And if you can just believe in yourself and believe in your higher power and know that you can do it, and even when your partner and the people you love say it's not going to happen, if you can continue to believe in yourself, it will. And one of my biggest things when I was manifesting is one of my beliefs was always this or something better, this or something better, this or something better. And if you read my vision that I had written out before I ever got pregnant, before I ever had this baby or knew I was pregnant, on my vision board, it said that I had a little girl and her name was going to be Liberty. And I have a little boy. His name is Nixon. But I will tell you this or something better, because that little boy is better than anything I could have ever dreamed up. And it's such a gift to be his mom. And so as you're manifesting, as you're dreaming, as you're creating a life that you want to have, I want you to remember this or something better. Because maybe it doesn't exactly happen the way you want it or the way you thought. I mean, I was trying for years and years and years to have him. Years to get that little boy into my life. It took 3 years. And then I had to be pregnant for 9 months. But this or something better, and I believed in him, and he is such a beautiful blessing and such a great gift. And so I hope that by sharing my story, I can give you some faith and belief that you can also manifest anything that you can ever dream up, and that you are meant for greatness. And it is such a gift when you can believe this or something better. We think that we can control and that we have the plan. And I mean, that was right. I was trying to control how I got pregnant for so long. And once I released to the universe, and I built that self-belief, and I practiced every night believing in my future and believing in that future baby, I created it, and you can do the same. So that is what I wanted to share today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being you. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. I love you, Shannon. Thank you for being here.